Hello, this is Chris Nelson, and I am here with Zuny Duarte Tarrio, the
Correct.
mother, the lovely mother
Thank you.
of Enrique Tarrio, whose real name is actually Henry, and he is the leader of the Proud Boys, which, of course, in your mind, because of media, gives you all sorts of these ideas. But we're hoping to get some of this stuff straightened out and get the truth out. And who better to talk to than Enrique's mom? And it is very nice to be here with you today. Zuni, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for inviting me. I want to thank you for today, but I also want to thank you for this whole 18 months that you have been texting me and showing your support to me, to the family, and just to this whole situation.
Well, absolutely. I want to give you some hope, and I believe there is hope. And after hearing that gavel go down, and you were in the courtroom, and hearing 22 years, and hearing your son with words like terrorist, what went through your mind?
My heart dropped. My whole hope I couldn't even breathe. That's how bad it was. We tried to show we were strong, and we are. But it was devastating to hear 22 years. Never expected that at all. We never expected the terrorist enhancement. We felt it wasn't what should have happened. Judge decided otherwise. And yeah, I mean, my heart just dropped at that moment. It just completely stopped. My whole world stopped.
We hear so much about Enrique, but I'd like to know about Henry. Could you tell me what was he like as a kid?
He was a great kid. He's always been very family oriented. We're a close knit family. We're not a large family, but we're very close to each other. And he was the first child in a lot of sense. He was the first child for his father and I. He was the first nephew. He was the first grandchild. So he was a very special person. And in return, he became very special overall. He was always very giving. I remember sometime back then, I think it was Nintendo or something, and he had all the games and all the equipment. And one day I came home and he had lent it to someone that didn't have one, and I got really upset because back then it was like something really expensive, and I was like, "Why are you?" He says, "Well, he didn't have one, so I'll just let him have it for like a week or so." And it's endless the stories that I can give. He's really giving. He doesn't seem like he was an only child for many years, and he really didn't give that impression that he was an only child. He was always sharing, helping out his grandfather. He was just overall, he's a good man.
There is a history in your family. You guys are from Cuba.
Correct.
Enrique's father's from Cuba, and your family's from Cuba.
Yes, yes. We were all born in Cuba.
You were born in Cuba.
Yes. He was the first child born in the U.S. So we were all from Cuba. We came when we were children, and so we come from a communist country. And Henry, like I said, he was the first child, and he was the first U.S. born child in the family.
Wow. And I heard that you guys there was a farm that was taken away by the communists, and
Yes, like so many Cubans. We had lands taken away. We had a lot of issues when communism started. Henry even had a family member from his father's side that was killed like right in front of the family, executed basically. So we have had a hard time in our homeland.
were you a political family, or was Henry's father political, or when did that start? When he decided to get involved in politics?
We're not really a political family at all. He had an aunt from his father's side that was very politically involved locally here in Florida. And I think he probably got that from her, and he started to get a little bit more involved in politics. Actually, he didn't even do very good in history in school, so that kind of surprises me that he knows so much about history. But he's very self-educated, and yeah, he started to get involved in politics and wanting to help. Basically, that's how all this started. trying to help politically and, make a couple of changes here and there and, just social, show support.
Now, he ran for office, right? And got involved in the Miami Republican Party.
He did.
Okay, so he ran for Congress,
He
right?
ran for Congress. Yeah, he ran
Okay.
for Congress. He started that, and he was very involved with that. He was very happy with that, with making changes and getting involved more and more with the community, with the local community, and then he wanted to go into Congress. But I guess we didn't get there, so unfortunately.
So, when did the Proud Boys come into play? When did you first hear about the Proud Boys?
Honestly, Chris, I don't know when the Proud Boys came into play. And I know it started off like a drinking club and just a hangout club and stuff like that, but I don't know exactly when that started. Honestly, I wasn't very involved with any of those things. I came to really analyze this whole situation, maybe like 2 years back or 2.5 years ago. So I really don't know when he got involved with that and how that happened. I can't answer that. But basically he did. And really it was just like a drinking club. They would go out and discuss and, bring a little bit of politics in there. But that's how I saw it. That's how I saw it.
Now, he became the chair of the Proud Boys after Gavin McInnes. I had just heard of these guys the same way kind of you had in 2016, 17. And I was like, oh, this is like a fraternity. It reminded me of like a fraternity from college.
Correct.
Like a bunch of guys that maybe like were were frat boys kind of.
Right.
And, I was never a frat boy. That's probably why I enjoyed. But, what I know of the Proud Boys is when there would be reopen rallies, which included Republicans, Democrats, all sorts of races, everybody between.
Yes.
When there would be rallies to oppose child grooming, and there were threats from Antifa-related groups,
Right.
and that, or any of these groups on the left.
Right.
That the Proud Boys would make it their business to come to these events and would actually protect people, protect women, walk people to and from their cars to protect them from violent people. That's how I knew the Proud Boys. But what was painted in the news was very different. They were called anti-Semitic, violent, extremist. Can you talk about that? Do any of those words describe Henry Enrique Tarrio?
Nothing. It doesn't describe him at all. I've heard him, like in other occasions, called white supremacist, which is, I find it to be such a ridiculous thing to call him of all things. And like you, I mean, I just found out about the Proud Boys, and actually when I started to look them up, I did see that they were out there protecting people. I think the first image that I saw from the Proud Boys is in Portland. And that was like the first image that sticks out in my mind about the Proud Boys. But nothing of those words describe him at all. At all. He's a real peacemaker. He likes calm. He doesn't like if he goes to the rallies, he tries to make sure that everybody's in order. And I think that's what made him the chairman, because he had a way of calm. And I think all, let's say, leaders per se need to have that certain calm to calm their groups and to make sure everybody's in the right place, cooperating with law enforcement. So, and all those names that he's being called in the media have nothing to do with him. And I think that everybody that knows him knows that. And, sometimes I hear things about him and I'm like, wow, these people really have no idea. No idea. And that's scary. And like now, I've gotten 2 or 3 threats and, bad emails, but I don't let those bad apples, make a different thing, of what I think about this. I mean, I get so many hundreds and even thousands of calls and emails saying good things about my son, about Henry. So I don't really listen to those 2 or 3, because those 2 or 3 could be Antifa, it could be any other left organization, and I'm not going to let that get in our way to help this cause and to help this appeal.
Well, I'm glad the appeal's going through, or you filed the appeal already?
Yeah, they filed last night.
Okay, all right, good to know. Do you think he got a fair trial in any way?
Oh, of course not. I don't think anybody in their right mind thinks that that was a fair trial. First of all, just the fact that they didn't want to change the venue on this trial is just like outrageous. It's like they want to crucify everybody in DC so everybody sees that. So I don't think they got, and not only that, I mean, there was like tons of reasons why they didn't get a fair trial.
Now, your attorney's costs and the cost to you, you're not a wealthy woman.
Of course not. I work very hard.
You work very
I
hard.
do.
How much is this costing you?
This cost, just the trial alone was hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we expect the appeal to be the same. There's a lot of costs involved here. There's legal costs, there's traveling costs, there's every single thing you can think of. I mean, we spent over 5 months in DC. With attorneys flying back and forth, just all the additional cost of paperwork, additional, investigations. There was like tons of cost. People may think, and all of that money was put from money that, our family, a couple of private donations, but we had to come up with all that money. Our family did as a whole, and now we have to do it again. We have to do it again for appeals. We refuse to let the justice system win this. I mean, there is just no way we can allow this to happen to our American citizens.
Has President Trump reached out to you?
President Trump has not reached out to us. I'd have to say that we've gotten very little, calls and stuff from the top politics platform, and we're hoping that that's going to change in the future. We'll see how that goes, but no, we haven't been reached out directly by any politician.
Has President Trump helped you financially, or anybody in his group helped you financially with any of these bills?
No, all the financing has been done, like I said, by our family completely, and a couple of private donations, and that's been really just about it.
Does that upset you, since January 6th was about the election being stolen, and that's why they were there? Does that bother you that Trump hasn't helped you?
I haven't had time for that to bother me, Chris, honestly. My goal here has been to work, and make this happen and make the best possible legal team and legal process for Henry. So I haven't had time to analyze whether that bothers me or not. I always think of myself like, okay, we're going to get through this as a family, we're going to do it, and then we'll deal and see who's really helped and who has not at any given point. That's why at the beginning of this conversation, I told you thank you for all these months, being in contact with me, and I appreciate that. And that's been very few people. It's been very few people that have actually stayed in contact through this whole ordeal, through the trial. We've seen that shift a little bit now through appeal. We're getting help. We love those donors that we've had donors that have given $4 to the TarrioFamilyFund.org. So we appreciate every single cent, every single penny, because we have done all this financing through just us, just the family.
Wow, and absolutely, I'm sad to hear that more people haven't stayed in touch with you. Just like Enrique has stood for, and he has refused to lie. I know he's
Correct.
been. I just heard recently he was told he could, if he lied, he could get out of it. Mm-hmm. That he stood his ground because he won't lie. Mm-hmm. So I think if everybody had that kind of mentality and just to stand in truth, that would be a good thing. Now, President Trump could have blanket pardoned all the January 6ers before he left office. He chose not to. Mm-hmm. Does that bother you?
It probably bothers me now that you're telling me. But again, I'm not a politician. I know very little about politics. So I haven't really analyzed that in the past, that maybe he was there a little longer and could have done something, but I can't comment on that because I don't have any feelings for that right now. Does it bother me that nobody has done enough? Yes, it does. And about being scared, I understand that we've been all scared of this whole situation, but the more we continue to be scared, the more we are blind to what's going on. So that's why we've decided to talk now. Now the trial's over and we've decided to put things out there. It shouldn't surprise anybody that maybe they've asked Henry to lie in order to get a better benefit out of his trial, and he did not accept. It shouldn't be. That's just the way that things work. Though I've seen that in the past, and I'm seeing it now. But it does bother me that some people haven't reached out that could have helped in the trial and did not. And that's just not just politicians, just overall. Overall, I think a lot more people. But I think people are realizing it now that he got those 22 years sentence. They're realizing that if we don't continue, if we don't speak up and we don't realize that there's an issue and talk about it with our politicians, with the media, it's just going to continue and continue. We've been scared. Everybody's been scared till now. Well, it's time not to be scared anymore. It's time to let the other side be scared.
When you hear, I know that Enrique, Henry, also Biggs, and a lot of these guys, when Roger Stone was going through his trial, they were there in D.C. Every day. Roger Stone did nothing wrong and really stood up for him. Has Roger Stone reached out to you?
Roger Stone has not reached out to us.
Really?
Yeah, and that surprises me too, because Enrique was very supportive of him, very supportive. And again, I don't know if people are just scared and haven't reached out, or if they don't care. I'm not really sure why, but no. Again, no one has reached out from any of the political platforms that are political positions, or anybody that he's helped has actually reached out. So that upsets me a little bit. But I mean, it is what it is, and again, we go forward, and we're hoping that those that were scared and didn't reach out in the first run will reach out now at some point and say, hey, you're right. We made a mistake. We're here to support and help.
Well, I hope so, because that kind of bothers me when you hear Roger Stone on video, and you hear some of these other guys in Trump's cabinet saying that they know that Trump lost the election. Does that but they decided to do Stop the Steal anyway? Does that bother you? Do you think that that Enrique's sitting in prison because of a lie?
No, I think he's in prison and he was convicted and sentenced because our justice system is really not in the right place. And I'm hoping that the politicians and everyone now will come out and help with this situation. No matter who the nominee, who the next president is, I'm hoping that they are going to realize that we have American citizens that are convicted and sentenced for expressing their opinion and for just dumb texts coming back and forth with a group of guys that were never organized in any way. So it doesn't, I don't think he's there. I think he's there because of a lie overall, just a conspiracy, you can call it, from another part. It wasn't a conspiracy for sure from theirs. So again, I'm hoping that the politicians are now going to get involved with this. Elections are coming up, and we had the pressure before, and now the pressure's on.
Well, we know that politicians in election year, that's the time to pressure them
Correct.
on things. But I want to play something for you that I think, because I'd really like to give you some hope, because I do have one more question. When it comes, there's a lot of these media personalities. I don't necessarily have to name them, but they've kind of latched on to the January 6ers. And I get it. They've helped with raise money. Have any of these media personalities that have kind of made names for themselves by standing up for the J6ers, have they been in touch with you, like Julie Kelly or any of these personalities, Cara Casanova, or have they reached out to you?
Yeah, we've got reached out
Okay.
maybe a handful of medias that have been with us throughout this trial.
Who have been really very supportive of you that you'd like to recognize?
I want to recognize Gateway Pundit has put out there. I have to be honest. They've put out there, and not just now. They've been following the whole trial. I've seen a lot of their people in court several times. Cara has been there. Alicia has been there. So we have seen and several others, maybe a handful, that have been there throughout the trial. And we do appreciate the media, regardless of sometimes us being a little mad at the media because they put things out there. We understand that you guys have a job to do. But within your job, and I do it based like on my job, you have a job to do, but you also have a human side to it. And you can't just put things out there when you don't know, or just to please the politics or the DOJ, or just, you need to be conscientious about what you're publishing.
Do you think there are people that are say they're sticking up for the January Sixers, and I honestly I hate calling them the January Sixers because it's like, yeah, but the people that have been caught up in this. That are that are using them to make names for themselves. Are you
There's a lot of people that are using them to make names and to make money. And, it really infuriates me when I see people claiming to have an organization or claiming to be part of the J6ers. But, I was in trial for the full 5 months, every single day, like I told Judge Kelly. I was there every single day except for some days that I came back to Miami because I wasn't feeling well. And, when I looked to my side, I saw no one. And yet some people come up to me now and say, oh, because we raised this much money and and I'm like, it's funny because the 5 guys on this indictment that are high profile, you guys must think that they don't need anything because we never got any help financially. So I do believe there's a lot of people that have tried to make names for themselves with the J6ers, that label. I hate it like you do. But yeah, they've made money and they continue to make money, and sometimes the donations are not going to the right organizations.
Oh, okay. So you're not seeing a lot of this money. Do you want to name any names here?
No, I don't want to name any names because I think that the donors are the ones that have to be careful of what organizations they're donating to. That's the most important thing. I don't like to see donors' money going to the wrong place. Our donors' money comes to our Gifts and Go that's handled by our family, which our family uses it exclusively for legal fees and for expenses that have to do back then for the trial, and now the donations are everything's going to the appeal. I see a lot of media going out there, well, they're not using it. Yes, the money is going directly to our family. It's not going to a friend. It's not going to a girlfriend. It's not going to an organization. It's going to the family. And the family knows best where to apply that money because our goal is to get our son, brother, nephew home. And there's a lot of families that are like us, that are handling their Gifts and Go. So the donors need to be very careful. Because if you're donating to an organization that's out there and you don't know where exactly that money's going, if it's going to commissary, there's a lot of expenses of having someone in jail. A lot. People think there's not, there is. There's money to eat. I remember a couple of times when my son was in Virginia, I believe, not in Alexandria exactly, but when he was being transferred around or paraded around, like I call it, there was times when he had to sleep on the floor in a mat. Another time he was cold because he didn't get his commissary on time. So there's a lot of money that has to be put behind having somebody in jail.
TarrioFamilyFund.org is the place to go.
Yes. And this, Chris, is like I call it, it's the appeals of the appeals. And the reason that I say that is because this appeal is very important for the whole country. It's based on something that was done wrong by the justice system, and we need this appeal to work as best possible. We ask all the politicians, we ask everyone to please take a look at this situation. More than the money that we need for this appeal, we need to raise awareness. We need to raise awareness of what's going on. This is a very delicate situation in our country right now. For somebody that wasn't there, that had minimum text messages, it's not that the prosecution won. It wasn't that they won. They just didn't have enough. And being that the jury was from D.C. and our trial was in D.C., just made us completely lose.
Yeah, you're not going to get a fair trial
You're
here.
not.
I want to play a few clips for you. Some of them might be a little hard to hear, but some of them I want to give you some hope too. This is from a documentary called A Storm Foretold that was not released, but they followed Roger Stone around leading up to through the Stop the Steal, leading up to January 6th. And this is after January 6th happens, and he finds out that Trump is not going to give him or any of the J6ers a blanket pardon. Instead, we know he pardoned Kodak Black, he pardoned Kwame Kilpatrick and other businessmen that had some money, but he didn't pardon the January 6ers. I just want to play this for you to get your reaction.
Do I tell you how to make Danish films? No. Stop telling me about American politics. He has 4 more days of power. He can either let his supporters be thrown to the lions or he can save them. It's that simple.
And isn't there a risk of how...
There is no risk. He's leaving. There is no risk. How it looks? Who gives a fuck how it looks? How does it look when they spy on you without a warrant? How does it look when they arrest you without probable cause? How does it when they try to beat you into admitting something? How about when they take a word? You said the word fight, Mr. Stone. You said fight in your speech. You said fight for America. You're charged with inciting violence. These people are a bunch of despicable creeps. I just clashed with them once. I won that round, as you may have noticed. Fuck them.
So, just in light of that Trump could have pardoned, I mean, does that bother you a lot? I already asked you this, but
It probably does. I mean, I don't want to make excuses for Mr. Trump. I really don't know if he was out the first couple of days, and he could have done it a couple of days before. He had a lot on his plate that it was just an overall. I don't want to say that because I don't know. Again, I really had no idea that he probably could have done that a couple of days before. And
Yeah, he could have.
He could have, I guess, if that's, but he didn't, basically. So we're in this position right now, and I don't know. Maybe not. He'll do it. I don't know. I don't know. But Roger Stone has not reached out, and I'm glad to see that. I had not seen that video before. It would be nice if he would have reached out, because I know that my son was very, very supportive of Roger Stone. When he needed it. When he needed it. He was very supportive of Roger Stone when he needed it. So it'd be nice to hear from Mr. Stone.
Yeah, it would be nice if
he has a second chance.
Zuny a call, Roger. I'm pretty surprised, actually, not so surprised.
Just a call would be nice. Hey, Ms. Tarrio.
Since Enrique and them, they were in D.C. when Roger was on trial, and they were putting themselves at great risk.
Correct.
Because of Antifa and the people that were coming at them. And actually, it was Roger Stone's trial that kind of put the Proud Boys in the spotlight, and kind of put a target on them, I think. What about when you see this?
These guys have been great.
This is on January 6th. This is Roger Stone in his hotel room.
Now, these are Stop the Steal t-shirts. I believe they're available in every size, and you're welcome to them. Take a t-shirt or two. How are you? Good. Well, it's very clear. I was never on their list. Whole thing was a con job. No, it's infuriating. It's just childish.
Before the riot.
Amateurish. That's why they lost. They don't know what they're doing.
That's why they lost. Do you still think that Trump won the election, or what are your thoughts on that?
Chris, I really have no thoughts on that. I feel that there was a lot of irregularities. That I do feel, just because of what I've seen. Whether he lost or not, I guess it was determined by Congress that he did not. That he did. So I don't know. I don't have any feelings. I don't have any opinions on that. I do feel that there was irregularities. But, I don't know. Again, I'm not a politician, so I don't know what details, could be on voting and things like that. I vote. But I don't know. I don't know what could have happened there. I do feel there was irregularities. That I do.
Do you think that Trump and Stone and these guys whipped these guys up into a frenzy? Now, I don't think I don't think there was any plot to overthrow the government or terror. I don't think Trump or Stone or any of these guys knew that there was going to be a riot, okay? Having said that, do you think that they were responsible for sparking this and bear some responsibility in these guys being in prison?
No, I don't think so. I'm going to say no to that because I don't think that, I think that spark came at that moment on the ground at that particular moment. I don't think there was a plan. I don't think there was a spark. I don't think anything. And just by being in trial every day, with what the prosecution was presenting, every time I saw that, and I saw the videos, I could see that that's not what they went for. I don't think any of those thousands of people that were there, not only these 5 guys or Proud Boys or any other organization, I don't think anybody planned that. I don't think anybody even thought of that. I don't think that was a spark from the Trump administration. I really feel that it wasn't. I feel it was something that happened on the ground, that sparked itself on the ground at that particular moment.
Now, they used this post from Enrique where he says, "Make no mistake about it, we did this." But I look at that post, this was at a time when nobody knew. I don't even know if he knew about Ashley Babbitt at the time.
Exactly.
Nobody knew like what happened, and thinking in his head, he wasn't there for an insurrection.
Correct.
Just, hey, look, we made our statement, is how I took that.
And we is a very broad word. I mean, we could be me, you, we could be thousands of people, we, the American people, we, the citizens, we. We is a big word. We does not mean 5 guys. So we is a big word, and I've heard that before. And again, I really, I really, it's not only that I think, it's what shows in trial is that there was no conspiracy. There was no conspiracy. There was no plan. I mean, anybody that knows anything about this group knows that this was a very disorganized group to begin with. A bunch of drinking guys and, people that said, and even the text messages, prosecution would repeat and repeat and repeat the same text messages of, a lot of the text message didn't even include my son. So it was everything like, okay, somebody else that wasn't even in court, that wasn't even there, that wasn't even called, it was just people talking among themselves without having to be talking to Tarrio. So yeah, I mean, again, I think it was just a spark at the moment and what happened, and I definitely know for a fact there was no plan and no conspiracy.
What do you think when you see Trump say
I would like to begin by addressing the heinous attack on the United States Capitol. Like all Americans, I am outraged by the violence, lawlessness, and mayhem. I immediately deployed the National Guard and federal law enforcement to secure the building and expel the intruders.
What do you think about that? Is that kind of like throwing him under the bus?
I think that was like attack on the Capitol.
Without even knowing anything, he validates the narrative. That bothered me a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he did say that, and I think there was no real information at that point. And I do think that what happened on January 6th was wrong. It shouldn't have happened that way. I think it could have been avoided in a couple of ways, but regardless of that, what happened that day was not good, not nice, not good for the world to see us in that position. But the world is seeing us in another position now that's even worse than that one. It's much worse. What the world is seeing now from the United States is much worse. We're convicting and we're sentencing our own American citizens to years and years of jail. So, we're looking ridiculous, honestly.
Now, what do you think when you see this? This happened yesterday, or this happened on September 11th. There was a group of gay activists protesting. They wanted some HIV/AIDS bill. They went into McCarthy's office.
I saw that.
And I mean, so you saw this. You saw this.
Yeah.
Are they gonna pay the same price?
Are they gonna be indicted? Are they gonna be? They're in there. They're in the building. They went in there on purpose with the goal in mind. So yeah, I'd like to see what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen? The same thing that happened to all those other organizations that ripped our cities apart and terrorized our cities. Antifa and other organizations, and nothing is going to happen because this group of people of the Capitol, they're like I said the other day, they're like a political pawn. They're being used as an example, and that's wrong. We need to stop that. They are not to be paraded. They are not political pawns, and there has to be one just for everyone, not just for the Proud Boys or not just for this group or that group. It has to be across the board. And all we ask during this whole trial is that they be put on trial and convicted and sentenced for what they did. If they did something to the fence, if they did something, okay. But not overcharged, not over-convicted, and for sure over-sentenced.
So you've talked to, and I agree, you've talked to Enrique, and he's talked about, President Trump. He's still loyal to Trump, huh?
He is still loyal to Trump. I think that was his candidate from the beginning, and, things could change. They could change. Sometimes we go through life and we think, okay, well, I'm thinking this is right. And maybe down the line, you're like, well, no, this may not have been the right decision. And it happens to everybody. So things may change in the future. We'll see. We'll see. I think Enrique just wants somebody, an administration that's going to, be fair to all. And he's a patriot, so he's going to go with that candidate that's going to show that this country needs to go in a different path. Whether it's Trump, whether it's DeSantis, I don't think he has to stick to one particular nominee, and we'll see how that works out in the future.
I was just I just lost my internet for some reason. I was just about to play a clip of a podcast that Enrique and I did.
I follow your page pretty closely, and that's saying a lot because I really don't. I follow a lot of channels, but I don't really look at a lot of channels. I do look at yours because you're local and you've done great fucking things. I think I'm gonna post it after this podcast. I'll post your channel up, and I suggest that you guys follow, even if you're not from South Florida. I think that you guys should follow Chris Nelson because he could kind of show you what he's doing here locally. And you're not part of a group or anything, right?
Well, I co-founded a group called Reopen South Florida, and we started as a Facebook group. And surprisingly, we're actually still there. I mean, one of the few Facebook groups that's still up. But actually having a title that I'm chairman or president of this organization or something like that, no. I mean, we're just people that meet each other, and we come from all different, I don't want to say all different backgrounds. That sounds all like politically correct and everything, but people that just come together for a common cause because our rights are being encroached on. And we're like, well, wait a minute. Like back in March, they're saying, oh, there's a virus. There's a virus coming, and now we're told that the way to handle it is to lay down our freedoms. And I'm like, oh, guys, this is a trick. You don't see this. They'll do anything to get what they want, and they're great at tugging on heartstrings. They'll throw anything at the wall to see if it sticks. And I'm like, this is obviously a trick.
He was such a kind guy to me, and you think of him, and he's always got the tough exterior, the cigarette in his mouth,
Yeah,
the like
the
vest
tough.
on and everything. He looks like a badass,
And a soft heart.
When I got to know him, I'm like, this guy is a guy who really cares about his country, cares about other people, and he cares about his guys. I'm sure he's got to feel horrible about what happened that day.
He does. He feels horrible about what happened that day, and he's expressed that. He even expressed it the other day in sentencing. He was sorry about what happened that day. He had nothing to be sorry, remorseful for, because he really didn't do anything. But he was sorry because of what Washington D.C. went through, what this country went through that particular day. It shouldn't have got out of hand in that way. And I think a lot of people that did not get involved, that should have got involved, could have avoided that, and they did not have that situation under control. It could have been controlled at so many stages, and it was not. So yeah, he's a patriot, and he's a people person. And again, I get hundreds of thousands of text messages, emails, and calls from people that know the way he is and that love him for who he is. He's a great guy. He's self-educated. He's very soft-spoken, and but they've made him out to be this monster. And please don't believe that, because it's not like that at all.
There's a plot to overthrow the government. But wait a minute, if they can say that about somebody and with it not being true, and then railroad them the way they did, they can do it to any of us,
Right.
But I've noticed there are people that are more speaking out now that I didn't see speaking out then.
Yeah, there is. There's people in the videos that you saw that I was like, oh, that's so-and-so, or that's so-and-so, and they have actually come out, and I'm happy for that. I'm happy that we are not to be scared of our government. I mean, we can't be scared of the Department of Justice. We cannot continue to be scared. The more we're scared, the worse it is for everyone. I come from a communist country, so I know that my parents were very scared of the government at one point, and I don't want to see this country go through that. I want people to speak out and say, what they think and what they believe in. The same right that we give to other activists, we have to give to this case. We need to speak out. This is about awareness. So my goal here is to awareness and to get funds for that appeal that we desperately need. So
TarrioFamilyFund.org, and don't give to the grifters, okay?
Don't.
There's grifters out there, if you haven't noticed, and they're all trying to make their names for themselves as, we care about the G6ers and blah blah blah.
Right.
Like, look, there are people out there that use good causes in order to enrich themselves and I don't know if you've noticed this. There are a lot of them on Twitter, by the way, if you haven't noticed. But TarrioFamilyFund.org. And I encourage, she said, you heard her, about big donors. Really, small donations are good, but if you're somebody who, you've got some money and you are, you want to look, you really, your heart goes out, and they can be anonymous, right? You
could be anonymous to donate. I really like to see names out there. I really like to see who you are. We want to remember you in the future and say, hey, this person helped bring this patriot home. But you could be anonymous. There's not a problem with that. And again, like Chris says, it could be $4, $1, $10, $100, whatever you have, because that's going to make you feel better. It's going to make you know that you made a difference. It's very hard to make a difference in this country right now. To be heard, it's very difficult.
How much is the appeal going to cost?
So it's going to cost the same hundreds of thousands of dollars that the trial costs. There's 41,000 pages of trial to go through. So you do the math.
So if you've got maybe $100,000, and you do, and now you're realizing this, and your heart's going out, you can absolutely help. You can do it anonymously if you want. And it's just been great talking to you.
Thank you, Chris.
Zuny, thank you so much for taking the time. You know, you need to call your politicians out. You need to bring your problems and kind of put them in their face sometimes. And you know, DeSantis used his pardon power to pardon 2 people who were arrested 3 times for not requiring masks at their gym. They were being, you know, railroaded by the Broward government, and that caught my attention. But you know, he's been asked about the January 6ers and the people targeted by the Justice Department over and over, and said he's going to begin pardons if he's elected president day 1 on the front end of his administration, not on the way out the door.
Okay.
And, you know, I hope that gives you hope. But he was asked specifically about Enrique, and here's what
January
he said.
6th, some of the people that are going away now, they've 15, 18, and 22 years for Tarrio. As a president, would President Ron DeSantis commute or pardon those guys?
We will look at all those cases. I mean, so there's some examples of people that should not have been prosecuted. They just walked into the Capitol. If they were BLM, they would not have been prosecuted. Then there's other examples of people that probably did commit misconduct. They may have been violent. But to say it's an act of terrorism when it was basically a protest that devolved into a riot, to do excessive sentences, you can look at, okay, maybe they were guilty, but 22 years, if other people that did other things got 6 months. So I think we need a single standard of justice. And so we'll use pardons and commutations as appropriate to ensure that everyone's treated equally. And as we know, a lot of people with the BLM riots, they didn't get prosecuted
What are your
at all.
thoughts on that when you hear that?
Oh, I appreciate Mr. DeSantis' word, definitely, and it makes me think of, you know, possibilities in the future. Again, these are politicians that were voted in by us, and now they're asking for our votes for the presidential elections. So I invite them to contact the families, and we're going to tell you exactly how we feel, and not the media, not anyone else. We're going to tell you, and for DeSantis to say that they're going to look at the process is very encouraging. It's very encouraging. So we invite them to reach out to us. We're the families. We're suffering. We have been convicted. We have been sentenced. And we're on the verge of bankrupt. So we need to hear from these politicians. You want our vote? Let us hear about it. Let us bring it out there. Don't be scared. We invite all the politicians not to be scared with the situation. You know, we want somebody that's going to help us in every aspect of this situation. So if you want our vote, reach out to us. That's all I have to say, Chris.
Zuny Duarte Tarrio, thank you so much for joining me
Thank you,
today.
Chris.
God
Thank you.
bless you.
God bless you too. Thanks for all the help.